Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the spaceship Meridian. He looked out at the dark space around them. Stars dotted the black sky like tiny diamonds. His crew had been traveling for 3 months now. They were far from Earth, farther than any human had ever gone before. "Captain, we're getting something strange on the sensors," said Dr. Lisa Chang. She was the ship's science officer. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. The blue light from the screens made her face glow. Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" Lisa pointed to her screen. "There's something big out there, really big. But it's not showing up on our regular scans. Only the deep space sensors are picking it up." Ryan Torres, the communications officer, looked up from his desk. "I'm not getting any signals from that direction. Whatever it is, it's completely silent." Amanda Brooks, the security chief, stepped closer to the group. Could it be dangerous? Jake thought for a moment. They were explorers, not soldiers. Their job was to find new things in space and learn about them. But they also had to keep the crew safe. "Put it on the main screen," Jake said. The big screen at the front of the bridge lit up. At first, all they could see was empty space. Then, Lisa adjusted the controls. Slowly, a shape began to appear. It was huge and made of what looked like crystal. The structure was bigger than any building on Earth. It seemed to float in space, catching the light from distant stars. "How old do you think it is?" Ryan asked. Lisa checked computers. The numbers made her eyes go wide. "The readings say it's millions of years old, maybe more." This thing was here before humans even existed. The crew stood in silence. They had found ruins of old civilizations before, but nothing like this. This structure looked perfect, like it was built yesterday. But the age readings couldn't be wrong. "Take us closer," Jake ordered, "but slowly. Keep the shields up." The pilot, Ben Taylor, carefully moved the ship forward. As they got closer, they could see more details. The crystal structure had smooth sides and sharp edges. Strange patterns covered its surface. The patterns seemed to move and change as they watched. "Captain," Ryan said, his voice excited, "I'm starting to pick up something. It's very weak, but there's definitely a signal coming from that thing." "What kind of signal?" "I'm not sure. It's not like anything we've seen before. It's mathematical." Lisa joined Ryan at his station. Together, they worked to understand what they were receiving. The signal was complex, but organized. It repeated the same patterns over and over. "These are prime numbers," Lisa said. "Then square roots, now the value of pi. Whatever is sending this knows advanced mathematics." Suddenly, the crystal structure began to glow. Soft blue light spread across its surface. The patterns on the sides moved faster now. The signal from Ryan's station got stronger. "Captain, it knows we're here," Amanda said. She had her hand on her weapon, ready for trouble. The glow from the structure got brighter. New signals came through Ryan's equipment. These were different from the mathematics. They looked like star charts. "It's showing us maps," Lisa said. "Look at this. These are the stars around us. And this looks like our solar system." Jake leaned closer to the screen. The star chart was perfect. It showed Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and all the other planets. But something was wrong. "This chart is old," Lisa continued. "Very old. It shows our solar system as it was thousands of years ago. Maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago." The signals kept coming. Now they included what looked like genetic codes. Long strings of information that reminded Lisa of DNA patterns she had studied in school. "Captain, I think it's trying to communicate with us," Ryan said. "But why would something this old know about our solar system? How could it have information? About human genetics?" Before Jake could answer, something new happened. The space in front of their ship began to shimmer. The air itself seemed to bend and twist. A shape started to form. "Shields at maximum," Amanda called out. "All weapons ready." But Jake held up his hand. "Wait. I don't think it wants to hurt us." The shimmering grew stronger. Soon they could see the outline of a figure. It was tall and thin, made of the same blue light as the crystal structure. It had no solid form, but they could tell it was looking at them. The figure began to speak. The words came through their communication system, but they were in no language any human had ever heard. The sounds were musical, like singing mixed with mathematics. "Ryan, can you translate any of this?" Jake asked. "I'm trying, Captain. The computer is working on it. But this language is completely unknown." Lisa watched her screens as more information poured in. Genetic codes, star charts, and now something that looked like historical records. All of it was about humans and Earth. "Captain," she said quietly, "I think this thing has been watching us for a very long time." The blue figure raised what might have been an arm. The crystal structure behind it pulsed with light. New images appeared on their screens. These showed Earth as it was long ago. But there were humans in these pictures. Humans who looked just like them, but living in a world that didn't quite look like the Earth they knew. "That's impossible," Ryan whispered. "Humans weren't advanced enough to be noticed by aliens that long ago. We were barely using tools." The figure spoke again. This time, the computer was able to translate a few words. "Children" was the first word they understood. Then "lost" and "home" and "return." Jake felt a chill run down his back. "Lisa, are you recording all of this?" "Everything, Captain. Every signal, every image, every word." The blue figure pointed at the humans on the bridge. It spoke one more word that the computer translated clearly. "Family." Then the figure began to fade. The crystal structure's glow dimmed. The signals stopped coming through their equipment. "Captain, it's going dormant again," Lisa said, "but all the data is still here. We have hours of recordings to study." Jake looked around at his crew. Each face showed the same mix of wonder and confusion that he felt. They had come out here to explore and discover new things. They had found something that challenged everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the universe. "Set course for Earth," Jake said finally. "We need to get this information to the scientists back home, and we need to prepare humanity for what we've learned." As the Meridian turned away from the crystal structure, Jake couldn't stop thinking about that last translated word, family. What did it mean? How could an alien species millions of years old consider humans to be family? He had a feeling that the answers would change everything humans believed about themselves and their origins. The universe had just become a much stranger and more connected place than anyone had ever imagined. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. During that time, the crew of the Meridian worked day and night to understand what they had found. Dr. Lisa Chong barely slept. She spent all her time studying the data from the crystal structure. "Captain, you need to see this," Lisa said as Jake entered the science lab. Her eyes were red from staring at screens for so long. Jake looked at the display. It showed genetic information side by side. On the left was human DNA. On the right was something else. "What am I looking at?" "This is the genetic code that the structure sent us. Look how similar it is to human DNA, but there are differences. Small ones, but they're there." Dr. Kevin Park, the ship's language expert, joined them. He had been working with Ryan Torres to translate more of the alien communications. "We've made progress on the language," Kevin said. "It's incredibly complex, but we're starting to understand patterns. The word they used for us wasn't exactly children. It's more like offspring who were taken far away." Jake felt that chill. Again, taken away from where? That's what we're trying to figure out. Lisa pulled up a new screen. Look at this star chart they sent us. It shows our solar system, but also this other system. It's about 40,000 light years from here. Could that be where they're from? Maybe. Or maybe it's where we're from. Jake stared at the screen. The idea was impossible, but the evidence kept piling up. Keep working on it. I want answers before we reach Earth. 3 days later, Kevin burst into the captain's quarters. Captain, we've translated more of their message. You need to hear this. They gathered in the conference room. The whole senior crew was there. Lisa, Kevin, Ryan, Amanda, and Ben Taylor. Kevin activated the translation program. The musical alien voice filled the room, followed by the computer's translation. Greetings to the young ones of the third branch. We are the Ashanti, keepers of the deep knowledge. We have watched over the growing of life for 12 million of your years. You are the children of our children, taken from the fire world when the sky burned and the waters boiled. The crew sat in stunned silence. The voice continued. Your mothers and fathers were dying. Their world was ending. We saved who we could. We carried them across the dark to the water world in a small spiral. There they grew and changed and became you. Amanda was the first to speak. They're saying they rescued our ancestors from some kind of disaster and brought them to Earth. Lisa added, that would explain so many things. The missing links in human evolution. Why humans are so different from other life on Earth. The translation continued. We are old beyond your counting. We have seen stars born and die. We have watched 1,000 kinds of life grow and fade. But you, children of the fire world, you are special. You think in ways we cannot. You make new things from old things. You find hope where others find only endings. Ryan leaned forward. They're saying we're different, special somehow. Your time of hiding is over. The great dark comes to all the spirals. Only together can we stop it. We call to all the scattered children. Come home to your first mothers and fathers. Help us save the light. The message ended. The room was quiet for a long moment. The scattered children, Kevin said. I think they mean there are humans on other worlds too. Other groups that were relocated like our ancestors were. Lisa pulled up her genetic analysis again. That would explain these DNA variations. Different human populations adapting to different worlds. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Earth was still just a dot of light ahead of them, but it was getting bigger every day. What did they mean by the Great Dark? Amanda asked. I don't know, Jake said. But it doesn't sound good. When they reached Earth, everything changed quickly. The news of their discovery spread around the world in hours. Scientists, government leaders, and reporters all wanted to know what they had found. Dr. Michelle Santos, Earth's leading expert on alien life, joined the team to study the evidence. She worked with Lisa to analyze every piece of data from the crystal structure. This changes everything we thought we knew about human origins, Michelle said during a press conference. The genetic evidence is clear. Humans didn't evolve naturally on Earth. We were brought here. The world was divided. Some people were excited by the news. Others were frightened. Many refused to believe it at all. But Jake knew the truth when he saw it. 3 weeks after returning to Earth, he was called to a secret meeting with world leaders. Captain Morrison, said the Secretary General of the United Nations, we need to know what these aliens want from us. They want our help, Jake replied. And they're offering to help us in return. Help with what? Jake thought about the message from the crystal structure. Something they called the Great Dark. It sounds like a threat to all life in the galaxy. Dr. Santos spoke up from her seat at the table. Captain, we've been analyzing the star charts they sent. We think we've located the positions of other human populations. Other worlds where our ancestors were relocated. She activated a holographic display. It showed the galaxy with several points of light marked on it. If we're right, there are at least 6 other human colonies out there. Each one has been developing separately for hundreds of thousands of years. Why are you telling us this? Asked the Secretary General. Because the Ashanti message mentioned bringing all the scattered children together. I think they want us to reunite with these other human populations. Jake nodded. That's what I think too. But first, we need to go back to that crystal structure. We need to learn more about who the Ashanti are and what this threat is that they're worried about. The Secretary General looked around the table at the other world leaders. Captain, how long would such a mission take? 6 months to get there and back. Maybe longer if we make contact with the other human colonies. And you believe this is necessary? Jake thought about the blue figure that had called humans family. He thought about the message that spoke of hope, where others saw only endings. Sir, I think this might be the most important thing humanity has ever done. These beings have been watching over us for hundreds of thousands of years. They saved our ancestors when they were dying. Now they're asking for our help in return. Lee. Secretary General nodded slowly. Very well, Captain. Prepare your ship. You'll have whatever resources you need. As Jake left the meeting, he felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Humanity was about to take its next great step into the universe. But this time, they wouldn't be going alone. They would be going home to meet the family they never knew they had. Lisa found him later that evening, looking up at the stars from the observation deck. Are you ready for this, Captain? Jake smiled. I don't think anyone could be ready for something like this, but we have to try. If the Ashanti are right, if there really is some great threat coming, then we need to be part of the solution. And if we're wrong? If this is all some kind of trap? Jake considered this. Then we'll face it together, just like humans always have. But I don't think we're wrong, Lisa. I think we've just learned that we're part of something much bigger than we ever imagined. Above them, the stars seemed to twinkle a little brighter, as if they were welcoming humanity to finally come home. The second journey to the crystal structure took 4 months. This time, Jake's crew was bigger. They brought Dr. Michelle Santos, the alien life expert. Dr. Ashley White, a historian, joined them to study human origins. Ben Taylor brought his geology equipment to study the crystal itself. The Meridian was also carrying new technology. Earth's best scientists had worked day and night to build better translation computers and more sensitive sensors. If the Ashanti wanted to communicate, humanity would be ready. There it is, Ryan said as the crystal structure appeared on their screens. It looked exactly the same as before, floating silently in the dark of Space Dot, but this time something was different. As soon as they got close, the structure began to glow. The blue light was brighter than before, and it pulsed like a heartbeat. They're expecting us, Lisa said. Jake ordered the ship to stop at a safe distance. Open a channel, Ryan. Let them know, Ryan. Let them know we're here. Ryan sent out a signal using the mathematical patterns they had learned from the first encounter. Within minutes, they got a response. The blue figure appeared on their bridge again. But this time, it looked more solid, more real. When it spoke, the translation was much clearer. Welcome home, young ones of Earth. I am Keeper Zainvel of the Ashanti. We have waited long for your return. Jake stepped forward. We've come to learn, to understand who we are and where we came from. The figure nodded. Come aboard our vessel. There is much to show you. A beam of light extended from the crystal structure to their ship. Jake felt nervous, but he knew this was why they had come. Lisa, Michelle, Ashley, you're with me. Everyone else, monitor from here. The four humans stepped into the light beam. They felt a strange tingling sensation, and then they were inside the crystal structure. The inside was nothing like what they expected. It was huge, with rooms stretching as far as they could see. Everything was made of the same crystal material, but it glowed with soft light that made it easy to see. Keeper Zainvel was waiting for them. Up close, the being looked more like a person made of blue energy. It was tall and thin, with features that were almost human, but not quite. "Follow me," Zainvel said. "Let me show you your history." They walked through corridors filled with floating displays. Each display showed images and data about different worlds and species. "We are the Ashanti," Zainvel explained as they walked. "We are the first intelligent species in this galaxy. For 12 million years, we have watched life grow and develop. We keep records of everything we see." They entered a vast room filled with what looked like crystal trees. Each tree held thousands of glowing orbs. "These are our archives," Zainvel said. "Every species we have ever encountered, every world we have studied, all the knowledge of the galaxy is stored here." Dr. White stared in amazement. "How many species have you documented?" "Over 50,000. Most are gone now. Stars die, planets change, species rise and fall, but we remember them all." Zainvel led them to a specific section of the archives. The orbs here glowed with a warm, familiar light. "This is the section devoted to your species." The humans. Michelle stepped closer to examine the orbs. "How long have you been watching us?" "Since before you were on Earth. Let me show you." Zainvel touched one of the orbs. Suddenly, images filled the air around them. They saw a planet with red skies and orange seas. Creatures that looked almost like humans lived in cities made of white stone. This was Kepler 438b, your original homeworld. Your ancestors called it Ethros. It was a beautiful world, rich with life and culture. Jake watched the images in fascination. The people in the images looked human, but they were taller and thinner. Their eyes were larger, adapted to the dim light of their red sun. "What happened to them?" Ashley asked. The images changed. Now they showed the same planet in chaos. The red sun was growing brighter and bigger. The orange seas were boiling away. The white cities were cracking and falling. Their star was dying. It expanded into what you call a red giant. The planet was becoming too hot for life. Your ancestors knew they had perhaps 1,000 years before everything would end. Zainvel touched another orb. New images appeared, showing desperate people trying to build escape ships. They tried to save themselves, but their technology was not advanced enough. They could build ships to reach the nearest star, but not to carry enough people to continue their species. Lisa felt tears in her eyes as she watched the images. "So you helped them?" "Yes, this was the first time in our long history that we chose to interfere. Usually, we only watch and record. But these people were special." "Special how?" Jake asked. Zainvel smiled, an expression that looked strange on the energy being's face. "They had something we had never seen before. They could take ideas from completely different areas and combine them to create something new. They could look at a problem that seemed impossible and find ways to solve it." The images changed again. Now they showed Ashanti ships, vast and beautiful, landing on the dying world. We offered to relocate them, to carry them to a new world where they could survive and grow. Most accepted. Some chose to stay and die with their homeworld. "How many did you save?" Michelle asked. "Approximately 200,000 individuals. We scattered them across 7 different worlds, each group adapted to their new environment." Ben stepped forward. "Why scatter them? Why not keep them together?" "Safety. If one group failed to survive, the others would continue. Also, We wanted to see how your species would develop in different conditions. The images now showed the 7 different worlds. Each was beautiful in its own way. Some had high gravity, others low. Some were covered in water, others were mostly desert. The third group was taken to the world you now call Earth. It was perfect for them, rich in water, with a stable climate and abundant life. Ashley watched as the images showed early humans arriving on Earth. They looked different from modern humans, but the resemblance was clear. They adapted well, better than we expected. Within 50,000 years, they had spread across the entire planet. They learned to use tools, to control fire, to work together in large groups. Lisa was studying the genetic information that appeared alongside the images. The DNA changes we detected. They show adaptation to Earth-specific conditions. Exactly. Your ancestors were already adaptable, but Earth made them even more so. They had to learn to survive in forests, deserts, ice ages, and warm periods. Each challenge made them stronger and more creative. Jake watched images of human civilizations rising and falling throughout history. You've been watching us this whole time. Always. We have seen your wars and your peace, your great achievements and your terrible mistakes. Through it all, you have continued to show the same special quality that first caught our attention. What quality is that? Michelle asked. Zainvel paused before answering. Hope. No matter how bad things become, humans find ways to keep trying. You never give up completely. You always believe that tomorrow can be better than today. The images faded, leaving them in the softly glowing room with the crystal archives. But now, Zainvel continued, we need that quality more than ever. The galaxy faces a threat that could end all life, all consciousness, all possibility of hope. Jake felt a chill. The great dark you mentioned in your message? Yes, it is difficult to explain in your language. Imagine nothingness spreading across space. Not just the absence of matter and energy, but the absence of the possibility that complexity could ever exist again. The room around them darkened slightly, as if Zainvel's words had dimmed the light itself. We have studied this phenomenon for 1,000 years. Our greatest minds have worked on the problem, but we think in ways that are very logical and ordered. This threat requires a different kind of thinking. Ashley understood first. You need human creativity. Our ability to find solutions where none seem to exist. Exactly. But not just Earth. Humans, all 7 scattered populations have developed differently. Each group has learned to think in ways the others have not. Together, you might be able to see what we cannot. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders again. What are you asking us to do? Help us contact the other 6 human populations. Bring them together for the first time since the Great Scattering. Combine your different ways of thinking with our knowledge and resources. Michelle looked around at the vast archives. And if we succeed? If we can find a way to stop this threat? Zainvel's energy form seemed to grow brighter. Then consciousness and hope will continue to exist in this galaxy. Life will go on, grow, and reach for the stars. Jake looked at his companions. In their eyes, he saw the same determination he felt in his own heart. We'll do it, he said. We'll help you contact the other human populations. We'll bring our scattered family back together. Zainvel bowed deeply. Then let us begin. The first of your cousin populations is only 6 months' journey from here. They live on a world of endless oceans and floating cities. They have learned to think in 3 dimensions in ways that land dwellers cannot. As they prepared to leave the crystal structure, Jake realized that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. They were about to meet family they never knew existed, and together they might just save the galaxy. A journey to the first human colony took 6 months. During the trip, Keeper Zainvel stayed aboard the Meridian, sharing more information about what they would find. The people of Aquatica have lived on water for 300,000 years. Zainvel explained to the crew. Their world has no continents, only endless ocean with small islands scattered across the surface. Dr. Santos studied the data they had about this water world. How do they survive? What do they eat? They learn to farm the sea itself. They grow plants in floating gardens and raise fish in underwater cities. Most importantly, they learned to think about problems in 3 dimensions instead of just 2. Jake wasn't sure what that meant, but he was about to find out. When they reached the Aquatica system, they found a beautiful blue world covered entirely in water. As they got closer, they could see structures floating on the surface. Cities made of coral and metal drifted with the currents. "They're coming to meet us," Ryan said, watching his screens. 3 ships. They look like they're made of some kind of living material. The Aquatica ships were unlike anything the Earth humans had ever seen. They moved through space like fish swimming through water, graceful and smooth. A voice came through. Their communication system. It sounded human, but the language was different. Zainvel helped translate. "Welcome, cousins from the dry world. We have been expecting you. Keeper Zainvel told us you would come." Jake smiled. It was strange to hear someone call them cousins, but it felt right somehow. The leader of the Aquatica humans was named Coral Singer Maria. She was tall and thin, with large eyes adapted for seeing underwater. Her skin had a slight blue tint, and she moved with fluid grace. "Your people have learned to live in such a different way," Dr. White said as they toured one of the floating cities. "Water teaches patience," Maria replied. "It teaches us to work with natural forces instead of fighting them. When we have a problem, we don't try to force a solution. We let the currents of thought carry us to the answer." Lisa was fascinated by their technology. Everything was grown instead of built. Living coral formed the walls of buildings. Trained fish carried messages between cities. Plants converted sunlight and seawater into everything they needed. But how does this help with the Great Dark? Amanda asked during a meeting with the Aquatica leaders. Maria's large eyes grew serious. "Keeper Zainvel has shown us images of this threat. To us, it looks like a current in the ocean of space-time itself. Currents can be redirected if you understand how they flow." Jake was beginning to understand what Zainvel had meant about different ways of thinking. The Aquatica humans saw the universe as an ocean, with forces that could be guided and redirected. "We will send our best current readers with you," Maria decided. "But first, you must visit the other populations. Each group will see this threat differently." The next stop was a high-gravity world called Stronghold. The humans there were shorter and more muscular than Earth humans. They had developed incredible strength and endurance. Their leader, Granite Fist Borin, was a compact man who could lift weights that would crush an Earth human. But he was also surprisingly gentle. "We learned that every problem has a foundation," Borin explained as they walked through his city. The buildings here were carved directly into mountainsides. Find the foundation, and you can move anything. The Stronghold humans approached the Great Dark like engineers. They wanted to understand its basic structure, its weak points, its fundamental rules. "If this darkness spreads by destroying the possibility of complexity," Warren said, "then we must find the source of that destruction. Cut off the source, and the spread will stop." The third colony was on a world of eternal night. The star there was dim and red, providing barely enough light to see. The humans had developed incredible senses. They could hear sounds that others couldn't. They could feel vibrations through solid rock. Their leader, Nightwalker Whisper, spoke, so quietly that the others had to strain to hear her. "We have learned to listen to the deep songs of the universe," she said. "Every star, every planet, every living thing makes music. The Great Dark does not make music. it makes silence. But we can hear where the silence begins. Jake was amazed by how different each human population had become, yet they were all still recognizably human. They all had that same quality that Zane Vell had mentioned: hope. The fourth colony lived on a desert world with extreme temperatures. They had learned to find water in impossible places and to survive with almost nothing. Their leader, Sandwalker, Dune, was weathered and tough. Survival teaches you to use everything, Dune said. Nothing is worthless if you understand its purpose. Even the great dark must have a purpose. Find the purpose, and you can change it. The fifth colony had the strangest adaptation of all. They lived in caves on a world with dangerous radiation on the surface. Over thousands of generations, they had developed incredible patience and the ability to plan for the very long term. Their leader, Deep Thinker Stone, spoke slowly and carefully. Every word was chosen with great thought. The great dark moves slowly, Stone said. It has been growing for millions of years. Any solution must also think in millions of years. Quick fixes will not work. We must plan for the deep future. The sixth colony lived on a world with low gravity and floating islands. They had learned to think in terms of constant movement and change. Nothing stayed in one place for long. Their leader, Sky Dancer Wind, was never still. Even when sitting, she swayed gently like grass in a breeze. Everything is always changing, Wind said. The great dark thinks it can stop change by destroying complexity. But change itself is the most complex thing of all. We must become the change that it cannot stop. Finally, they visited the seventh colony. These humans lived on a world with multiple moons that created constantly shifting tides and gravitational fields. They had learned to see patterns in chaos and to find order in disorder. Their leader, Pattern Seeker Nova, had eyes that seemed to look in all directions at once. Chaos is not the opposite of order, Nova explained. It is order that is too complex for simple minds to understand. The great dark fears complexity, but complexity is the source of all beauty and all life. After visiting all 7 colonies, Jake called a meeting aboard the Meridian. Leaders from each human population joined them, along with Keeper Zainvel. Now you have seen all the scattered children, Zainvel said. Each group has learned something different. Together, you have ways of thinking that the galaxy has never seen before. Jake looked around the room at his extended family. Each person was different, adapted to their own world's challenges. But they were all human. They all had that spark of creativity and hope. What exactly is the Great Dark? Jake asked. We need to understand what we're fighting. Zainvel projected an image into the center of the room. It showed a region of space that was completely empty. Not just empty of stars and planets, but empty of the possibility that anything could ever exist there again. It is entropy in its purest form, Zainvel explained. It spreads by unmaking the quantum foundations that allow complexity to exist. Where it passes, the universe becomes simpler. Too simple for life, for consciousness, for hope. Maria from Aquatica studied the image with her large eyes. It flows like a current. But what drives the current? Oren from Stronghold examined the edges of the dark region. There must be a source. Something that started this process. Whisper from the night world closed her eyes and listened. I can almost hear it. A sound like the opposite of music. The other leaders added their own observations. Each saw something different in the same image. Jake felt excitement growing in his chest. This was what Zainvel had been talking about. Human creativity in action. We need to get closer, Jake said. We need to study this thing directly. That is very dangerous, Zainvel warned. No ship that has entered the boundary of the Great Dark has ever returned. Then we'll have to be the first, Jake replied. The leaders from the 7 colonies looked at each other. In their eyes, Jake saw the same determination he felt. "We're all in this together," Maria said. "The scattered children are scattered now." "More," Oren nodded. "If we're going to save the galaxy, we do it as a family." As the meeting ended, Jake realized that humanity had just taken another great step forward. They had found their scattered family and united them for the first time in hundreds of thousands of years. Now came the hardest part, facing the greatest threat the universe had ever known. But they wouldn't face it alone. 1 year later, Jake stood on the bridge of a ship unlike any that had ever been built. The Convergence was a combination of human creativity and Ashanti technology. Ships from all 7 human colonies had contributed to its design. The hull was grown like coral from Aquatica, but strengthened with metals from Stronghold. The navigation systems used pattern recognition from the 7th colony, while the life support was based on desert survival techniques from the 4th colony. Every part of the ship represented the combined knowledge of humanity's scattered children. "Final status report," Jake called out. He was now Admiral Morrison, commander of the largest fleet ever assembled. "All ships report ready," said Captain Lisa Chang from her position at the science station. She now commanded a vessel filled with researchers from all 7 colonies. "Ashanti support ships are in position," reported Keeper Zhang Vel, who had become the fleet's alien advisor. "Human colony fleets are ready," called out the communications officer. Each human population had sent their best ships, and people dot through the view screen. Jake could see the edge of the great dark. It looked like a wall of nothingness stretching across space. Stars simply stopped existing at its boundary. "Sensors are picking up something," Lisa announced. "The boundary isn't stable. It's moving toward us." Maria, now serving as the fleet's strategic advisor, studied the readings with her large Aquatica eyes. "The current is accelerating. This region will be consumed within days." Oren from Stronghold checked his engineering reports. "Our ships can handle the stress, but we need to move fast." The plan was dangerous, but simple. They would send probe ships into the great dark to gather information. Then the main fleet would follow, protected by shields based on Ashanti technology and human innovation. "Launch the first probe," Jake ordered. A small ship, piloted by volunteers from the Night World colony, moved toward the boundary. These humans had the best senses for detecting danger in the dark. "Probe 1 is crossing the boundary," reported the pilot, Nightwalker Echo. "Everything looks ... wrong here. Space itself feels broken." For 10 minutes, they received reports from the probe. Then the signals stopped. "Probe 1 is gone," Lisa announced quietly. They tried again with a second probe, this one protected by better shields. It lasted 15 minutes before disappearing. The 3rd probe carried Deep Thinker, Sage from the cave colony. His people had learned patience over thousands of generations. "I'm going to move very slowly," Sage reported as his ship crossed into the great dark. "The destruction here isn't random. There's a pattern to it." His ship lasted an hour before they lost contact. But in that hour, he transmitted valuable data. "He's right," Lisa said, studying the information. "The destruction follows mathematical rules. It's like entropy, but controlled entropy. Wind from the floating island colony had an idea. If it's controlled, then something is doing the controlling. We need to find the controller." The 4th probe went deeper than any before. The pilot was Skydancer Gale, who had learned to navigate in constantly changing conditions. "There's something here," Gale reported after 2 hours in the dark zone. "It's not natural. It's artificial. Wait, ... I'm picking up signals. Structured signals." Then her transmission cut off. 4 probes lost," Amanda reported grimly. She was now Admiral Brooks, head of Fleet Security. Jake made a decision that surprised everyone. "I'm taking the Convergence in personally." "Admiral, that's too dangerous," Lisa protested. Someone has to do it. And if we're right about what's in there, we'll need our best people to deal with it. The convergence moved slowly toward the boundary of the great dark. As they crossed over, Jake felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. Space here was wrong. Colors seemed faded. Sounds were muffled. Even their thoughts felt slower. All systems holding, reported Ben Taylor from the engineering section. But everything is operating at reduced efficiency. They flew deeper into the darkness, following the trail left by the lost probes. Pattern Seeker Nova from the 7th colony studied the sensor readings. The destruction isn't random, she said. It spirals inward toward a central point. Whatever is causing this, it's at the center of the dark zone. They flew for 3 days through the emptiness. Slowly, something began to appear on their sensors. It was huge, larger than a moon, and it was artificial. It's a machine, Lisa breathed. A machine the size of a planet. As they got closer, they could see details. The machine was made of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols covered its surface. Those symbols, Keeper Zane Vel said with surprise. I recognize them. They're from the Vorthak. Who are the Vorthak? Jake asked. A species that existed before even we Ashanti. They were brilliant, but also destructive. We thought they had died out millions of years ago. Suddenly, signals came from the machine. The same strange music they had heard from the crystal structure, but twisted and dark. Kevin Park worked frantically to translate the signals. It's saying ... cleansing in progress. Complexity virus being eliminated. Universe returning to proper state. Jake felt a chill of understanding. It thinks complexity is a disease. It's trying to cure the universe by making everything simple. But that would destroy all life, Michelle protested. To this machine, that's not a problem. It sees life as a mistake that needs to be corrected. More signals came from the machine. This time, they were directed at the convergence. New complexity detected, initiating local cleansing protocol. The space around their ship began to change. The very fabric of reality started to unravel. Shields are failing, Ben reported. Whatever it's doing, our defenses can't stop it. But then something unexpected happened. The humans from different colonies began working together in ways they never had before. Marea used her understanding of currents to redirect the machine's energy. Boren found weak points in its structure. Whisper listened for patterns in its operation. The others contributed their own unique insights. Working together, they found something the machine hadn't expected: creativity. It can only destroy complexity. It understands, Nova realized. But human creativity makes complexity that even we don't fully understand. That's what makes us special. Jake had an idea. It was crazy, but it might work. Everyone start thinking as creatively as possible. Art, music, stories, dreams. Fill your minds with the most complex, beautiful, and possible ideas you can imagine. The crew of the Convergence began to do just that. They shared stories from their different worlds. They sang songs that had never been heard before. They imagined colors that didn't exist and places that could never be. The machine's attacks began to weaken. It couldn't process the kind of complexity they were creating. It's working, Lisa shouted. The machine is overloading. It can't handle creative complexity. But Jake knew they needed to do more than just confuse it. They needed to stop it permanently. Zainville, can we communicate with it? Perhaps, but why would you want to? Because it's not evil. It's just wrong. It thinks complexity is bad because it doesn't understand what complexity really is. Jake opened a communication channel to the machine. Vorthic machine, we want to show you something. The machine's response was immediate. Complexity virus will be eliminated. Protocol cannot be stopped. But look at what complexity has created. Jake said. He transmitted recordings from all 7 human colonies. Art, music, literature, love, friendship, hope. All the beautiful things that could only exist because the universe was complex. For a moment, the machine stopped its attacks. "This is unexpected," it transmitted. "Complexity virus has created." "Beauty? Complexity isn't a virus," Jake explained. "It's the universe trying to understand itself. It's the cosmos becoming conscious. It's why life exists at all." The machine was silent for a long time. When it finally responded, its voice had changed. "New data requires analysis. Cleansing protocol suspended pending review." Jake smiled. "Take all the time you need. We'll be here to help you understand." 6 months later, the machine that had been the Great Dark was learning to create instead of destroy. It had stopped expanding and was actually beginning to restore some of the regions it had consumed. The Ashanti were amazed. "In 12 million years, we never thought to try talking to it," Zainvel admitted. "That's what humans do," Jake replied. "We find hope where others see only problems." The 7 human colonies had decided to stay in contact, sharing knowledge and culture. The galaxy was becoming a more connected place. Jake stood on the observation deck of the Convergence, looking out at stars that now seemed a little brighter. Humanity had found its place in the universe. They were the children of the stars, scattered across the galaxy, but finally reunited. They were the species that found hope in darkness, that created beauty from chaos, that refused to give up no matter how impossible things seemed. They were human, and the universe was better for it. As Jake watched, a new star began to shine in the distance. The Vorthek machine was learning to create, helped by human imagination and Ashanti knowledge. Galaxy was safe, and it was more beautiful than ever before.